Dystopia Lesson 10, Creating Your Own Dystopia. In this lesson, we're going to plan our own dystopian writing. First, we're going to just consider or review or just have a reminder, if you like, of the lessons that we've looked at so far in this dystopian unit. So lesson number 1, we looked at a blurb. We created a blurb, and the reason we're doing that was to start to think about setting, because I asked you to build in ideas of setting, dystopian setting, into your blurb to get those initial setting ideas considered. And then lessons 2 to 4, we looked at describing setting in a dystopia in more detail. We used extended personification, extended metaphor and similes in quite a lot of detail. And then in lessons 5 and 6, you were asked to start thinking about your dystopian hero. You may remember that you created a sort of character biography. We looked at the characteristics of a dystopian hero. And you also created, you wrote like a monologue to get inside your character to see what made them tick. And then in lesson 7 we looked at scene structure, and I talked about how scenes are structured in 3 parts, which we're going to have another look at in this lesson. Then lesson 8 you looked at narrative point of view, first person narrative, and lesson 9 third person limited. Now, if you've been taking part in the lessons so far, you probably have already some fairly good ideas about the world of your dystopia, some ideas about character and setting, and possibly even some ideas about plot and scene structure for your own story. So we're going to ask you to review and go back and look at some of these lessons and some of the work that you've done so far in order to sort of take anything that you think already works, use things that you already have. You don't need to rewrite things that you've already written. So anything that you've used so far that you think can be useful, go back and take a note of it. But if you maybe starting from scratch and you're not sure what to do, or you don't like your ideas, it may be an opportunity to try and create a new dystopian world for your story. And one thing you could do, you could just invent one yourself. Of course, if you're having trouble doing that, if you go to, there's a link on this. We'll put the link on the classroom. But there are all sorts of story generator websites where you sort of tap in a few details and it'll create a story outline for you. So I thought I'd have a look at one, see what I could come up with, and I came up with this dystopian story generator, and it produced a story for me when I typed in some, filled in a brief questionnaire. It came up with a story called 2099 Year of Convicts. Okay, and the outcome of that, the sort of plots it produced, was quite interesting. There we are. So my plot outline, as a result of just filling in a quick set of questions, answering a few questions, question prompts, it came up with this: 2099 Year of Convicts, a dystopian plot by GB. A meteor strike has destroyed the world as we know it. The year is 2099. Australia is a grim place ruled by convicts. Once glorious Sydney Opera House is now derelict. Brave psychiatrist Dr. Zach Smith is humanity's only hope. Zach finds the courage to start a secret revolutionary organisation called The Fall. The fight is jeopardised when Zach is tricked by scheming lawyer Jan Hammer and injures his fingernail. Armed with an antidote and oxygen tanks, the Fall try their best to save mankind, but can they defeat sinister convicts and restore Sydney Opera House to its former glory? Okay, so it almost writes, it's almost like written a blurb, isn't it, in some respects. I think if I'd have chosen a part of the body, I might not have chosen fingernail. I'm not sure how significant breaking a fingernail will be to a dystopian hero, but there we are. That's what came out. So if you're having trouble generating ideas, it might be fun to try a few things on that website. But assuming at this point, so you've either already have existing stories, an existing story idea from previous lessons, or you're just going to create one, you then need to know what to do with it. So you'll need to revisit lesson 7 for this activity. What I suggest you do is you listen again to the video for lesson 7 in order to, because it was all about scene structure, and that's what you're going to be doing in this lesson. So once you've got your idea for your dystopian story world, which, as I say, you've either you have that idea because of previous lessons, or else you've invented something new just now, or you've experimented with that dystopian plot generator. You now have a kind of sense of your story world. You need to come up with a scene structure. Okay, so I've listed on this slide here the three main elements of an effective scene: goal for the main character, obstacles to put in their way, and some sense of change at the end. Go back and look at lesson 7. Play that video again, take some notes down, look at the work you did for that, because what you now have to do is apply that to your own story. So you've got to come up with a 3-part scene plan for your own dystopian writing. So applying the scene structure ideas to my own dystopian story, the one I generated from the website that I showed you earlier. So we've got the character Zach. His goal is to get inside Sydney Opera House, which is being used to store oxygen cylinders that enable the enemy to go into the forbidden zone where they can locate the ingredients for a vaccine. The obstacles: there are guards surrounding it. Poisonous gas can be carried on the breeze. They don't know the specific location of the oxygen inside the opera house. At night, searchlights are used. The water approach is mined. Okay, and then the change at the end, they will locate the oxygen tanks, but they'll find that they're empty. So the outcome for this lesson is that you plan a scene for your dystopia. Plan a scene on the basis of lesson 7, which you're going to revisit, and the other information that you've generated for your story from this lesson generally. Okay, and then what we'll do is your teachers will have a look at your scene plan, or make any comments about it. They might suggest something. They might say it's great, and we'll just go with what you have. Or else, if you have any trouble with your ideas, you can sort of share that with your teacher, and they'll help you during the course of the next couple of lessons. Okay.